continuing on Manaḥ-śikṣā verses, and can you turn this on a little faster, a little more? What happened? And who knows verse number 1? Okay. Who knows verse number 2? Okay, we're getting there. Okay, devotees came here to the Dham for something. Yes, so you're here, devotees. You're here in the Dham. I don't think anybody's working full time here, although we have some services. But whatever service you're doing, you're cooking, you're cleaning, you make a card, put it out, repeat over and over. It's good to get everyone learn all the verses. Okay, we're still continuing on number 2, so if you get out number 2, then we can just do that repetitively. Yeah, in fact, I just saw this today in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Nadharmam nadharmam shrutigana viniruktam kila kuru. Nadharmam nadharmam shrutigana viniruktam kila kuru. Rajve Radha Krishna prachura paricharyam ihattanu. Rajve Radha Krishna prachura paricharyam ihattanu. Shachishunu nandishvara patikshutatve gurubaram. Shachishunu nandishvara patikshutatve gurubaram. Mukunda preshtatve smarapadam ajashram nanumana. Mukunda preshtatve smarapadam ajashram nanumana. Mind, don't do the pious and impious deeds described in the Vedas. Intently serve Sri Śivarāma Krishna in Braj. Always remember the Lord Chaitanya is the son of Maharaj Nanda, and my Guru is most dear to Lord Mukunda. So Manaḥ-śikṣā, this is instructions to the mind. Whose instructions to the mind? I mean, I know it's Raghunath Das Goswami whose teachings these are, but what does it mean, instructions to the mind? Krishna says, Indriyani paranyahu, indriyabhyat param mana, manasasta sarva buddhir, yo buddhi parasastusa. That there's a hierarchy in terms of the senses, gross, subtle, and so on. So, Indriyani Paranya, gross senses, which really have no independent volition. Well, they do. They do have a certain degree of volition, but it is sort of responsive according to sense objects that they've been accustomed to. So senses are like if you develop a habit. Habit means that you keep doing the habit. It's a natural thing that you're going to do. Habitually, you do the same thing. Similarly, if the senses are accustomed to looking at this, if they're accustomed, for instance, when you're driving down somewhere and you see some billboards, you don't think about it. It's just habitual. You're programmed to look at advertisements. So you just look at it and read it. So in this case, you see that the senses do have volition, but they have it because they're used to something. Otherwise, when they have no contact with a sense object, then they can't determine whether it's good or bad. It requires the mind and the intelligence to actually establish that, or at least go about a way for the senses to establish and give direction to the senses before the senses get that experience. So it's just like children. It's a common example that's given that children are fascinated by fire. Now, if they don't have any experience of fire, then usually their parents will let them stick their finger in the fire. Because once they get that experience, then that's it for this life. They're not going to stick their finger in the fire again. Anyone had that experience? Stick your finger in the fire? But why do they do it? They do it because they don't know, they have no prior experience, at least in this lifetime. So, Indriyani Paranyahu, Indriya Paramana. Then the subtle body comes above the gross body. And the subtle body, the lowest entity of the subtle body is the mind. And the mind drives the senses towards sankalpa, vikalpa, what it thinks is likes and what it rejects. But the rational aspect of the subtle body is the intelligence. Here, Krishna leaves out the false ego, and the intelligence is the one who really can determine. Mind doesn't determine whether something's good or not in the absolute sense. It just sees what's good for sense gratification and what's not. But the intelligence will know that, no, this sense gratification is not good, therefore it should not be done. Interestingly, that Lord Kapila Dev, in the third canto, when he's talking about the subtle body, he says you can't really distinguish these entities in a physical way. Just like you can easily tell the difference between your nose and your eyes. Aside from the function that they have their distinctive features. But the subtle body is really one, and these mind, body, the mind, intelligence, false ego, they can only be identified by their functions. So when the subtle body acts like this, then you know it's the mind has domineers or dominates over the subtle body. And when it acts in a different way, then it's the intelligence. So it's a whole in which different functions take place, and this function is called the mind, this function is called the intelligence. So the intelligence is above the mind. But if the intelligence is not strong, then the mind can actually carry it away. So there's that nice picture in the Bhagavad Gita of the chariot, the reins, and it's described throughout the Upanishads. It's described here in the Gita. Srila Prabhupada goes to quite some pains to define actually the functions of senses, mind, intelligence, and at the same time to show how the intelligence can become bewildered. For instance, one feature that later comes in the Bhagavatam and we all experience is that your intelligence can get very tired. In other words, your thinking power can become exhausted, but your mind never gets exhausted. It goes 24 hours a day, non-stop, from birth to death. So that's why, in order to control the mind, the intelligence has to be very strong. And in those same verses, Krishna then explains that when the intelligence is strong, then the others are under control, and the intelligence now knows this should be done and this should not be done. Anukulati sankalpa pratikulya vibhajanam. All right, so I know what to accept and what it is that I reject. Now, Manaḥ-śikṣā means intelligence is instructing the mind. And in order for intelligence to instruct the mind, in order for your intelligence to instruct the mind, you need to know this. Otherwise, what are you going to tell your mind? And telling the mind, it isn't that, you have to give a lecture. It's just that these are the standards, this is the lifestyle that a sadhaka, that a practicing devotee selects for himself. And therefore, if you sit down and make notes, then you take this, you do this, you don't do this, and you have a list of do's and don'ts. Education, although not so much, but say for instance, home education from parents is more or less about, well, you don't do this and you do this, and this is how you behave, and this is how you greet guests, and this is how you dress nicely, and you're meant to smile, and so on and so on and so on. This is training and education that comes, and then parents repeat it over and over again. It's very rare that, if a child takes notes from his parents, then you know that's a Brahmin. So that they consider, all right, here's my parents, what is the parents acting, in what capacity are they acting? They're acting in the capacity of the intelligence. So young children, little children, what are they? They're just senses. They're just manifestation of senses. Practically speaking, they have no mind, they have no intelligence. They just do whatever they see, and they don't know. So, they come over here, they see the mridanga, they start chewing on it. So, because they don't know, they don't have the prior experience, they don't know what the drum is meant for, and they don't know how to do it in any case. So, they are senses, and as children become educated, as they receive education, then the education is meant to strengthen that intelligence so that as they grow older, they start to have experience, and attraction and aversion awakens in them. It becomes the function of their mind. And so, for instance, Gurukul ultimately is not about stuffing your mind with all kinds of information. That's just the opposite of what should be taking place. What should be taking place is Manaḥ-śikṣā, is that children, youth are educated to such a stage where that they are self-controlled by the time they become teens. Because their intelligence has become so strong and they've acquired values by which they want to live. So what are our values? What are the values that we're meant to live by? So here, Raghunath Das Goswami tells practicing devotees, these are our values. Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, you want to know, these are our values. This is what we believe in. Who does that? I mean, I didn't do that. But if we really want to know what is a Krishna conscious lifestyle, then do we have it written down anywhere? It's not written down anywhere. We got lots of philosophy, and we got individual do's and don'ts, but we don't have a whole list of this is what it means, according to Shastra, to actually be a Vaishnava. This is what you do. And that devotees are educated on this basis, and they know why everything should be done. So that when Manaḥ-śikṣā also means Indriya-śikṣā. If you're giving instructions to your mind, then you're also instructing your senses, because the senses are beneath the mind. So Raghunath Das Goswami is giving us this Manaḥ-śikṣā, which is really the guidelines by which the intelligence will direct the mind. Okay, nadharmam, nadharmam. So don't perform pious activities, don't perform impious activities. As we mentioned yesterday, everybody knows about not performing impious activities, but the tendency to perform pious activities is there. But he says, don't do it. Number one, we emphasize the time factor. It's just taking away time. The second is that it builds up a certain type of habit and obligation to what the result of dharmic activities are. For instance, for many years, our Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj would go around ISKCON, and he gave a lecture, and his lecture was called Food for Death. This was a take on food for life. His point was that Srila Prabhupada did not want us to distribute food. That Prabhupada wanted us to distribute prasadam. And sure, it was meant to be for the hungry here, but when Prabhupada said feed people in a 10 kilometer or 10-mile radius, he didn't just mean the poor people. He meant the rich people as well, because everybody needs prasadam. So that's why we have often, for instance, in London, they do special programs at universities and so on. It's for everybody. So otherwise, and that's dharma, but it's not paro dharma. When it's prasadam, and when it's according to the direction of the acharya, then it becomes paradharma, otherwise it becomes dharma. And he says, no dharma, na dharma. He says, don't do dharma. So we may think that it's a very fine distinction, or that we're actually, nitpicking, if you know what nitpicking means. than making a big thing out of a little thing. But prasadam and not prasadam are not little things. There's a big thing. And food just leads to, all right, people eat, it fills their belly, but ultimately they continue to die. It's food for death. But food for life, eternal life, that's a different thing. That's prasadam. So we have, and I'm going to keep it short, we have so many important instructions that we are being given here, and it really behooves devotees who are taking seriously. I mean, aside from Samparna Gopal, I don't know who else takes notes or what, but to actually, write down what are the things that we do and what we don't do. Intently serve Radha, Krishna and Braj. So always remember Lord Chaitanya is the son of Maharaj Nanda. Now why in the world do we have to be told that? I mean, the devotees know that pretty well, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also in the role of a devotee. We should know well what are the instructions that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given. If he's Krishna, his instructions that we see to Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Prakashananda Saraswati, these four, that makes up the teachings of Lord Chaitanya book. That these things are of equal prominence to us as, for instance, any of Krishna's instructions. And we should know them. Or, for instance, Śikṣā, then every Vaishnava knows Śikṣā shlokas. This is like our national anthem. Who knows their country's national anthem? You know? Oh, say, can you see? Oh, Canada. I didn't have any choice, because every morning we had to sing it. Oh, Canada, and God Save the Queen. Really brainwashed. So, yes, just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Śikṣā, this is like our national anthem. This is the sum and substance of Krishna's teachings. Krishna's teachings as they're relevant to us now in Kali Yuga. So learn, study verses. That in itself really stimulates the mind in a good way and in the intelligence. So don't do the pious and impious deeds described in the Vedas. Intently serve Radha and Krishna and Braj. Always remember Lord Chaitanya is the son of Maharaj Nanda, and my Guru is most dear to Lord Mukunda. So, two verses. In both of these verses, there are things that are repeated. And when things are repeated, that's because they're very important. All right, we can chant, and the devotees who haven't offered candles, they can also offer. And is there any prasadam today? No prasadam. That's because the devotee wasn't here, so Tomorrow's Saturday, and when is Kartik over? 19th? 15, 16? 15, 16. Okay, so in a week. Okay, then we'll start having either Saturday or Sunday just kirtan evening, and then we may have one evening is break evening. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Sri Radha Damodar ki Jai, Shri Raghunath Das Goswami ki Jai.